So a few days ago, I did a video on how the legal herb market is in decline. Businesses are suffering. Meanwhile, the black market is booming. Now, there are lots of reasons for the legal market's decline, such as overtaxation, oversaturation, overproduction, and just excessive restrictions on who can own businesses and so forth. And in that video, there was a clip which drew lots of criticism, where Washington State implemented a new law to give priority to minorities and folks previously convicted of herb-related offenses. And it got me wondering, is DEI creeping into the cannabis industry, and is that a good or bad thing?
Hi, Joyce. You may remember voters back in 2012 passed the legalization of marijuana sales in the state, and since then it's become a multi-billion-dollar industry for the state. And today, a new state law will be sharing some of that wealth with a segment of the population that feels left out: minorities.
Do you want to get an ounce worth?
No one really knew if it would work.
We have the Thai Coast Cherry.
Washington and Colorado were the first to legalize the production and sale of pot. But the business has grown like a weed. Sorry.
It's going to be $80.
But the success has not been universal. Look at these self-reported numbers from pot license holders in the state. 82% identified themselves as non-minority or white. 7% said they were Asian, 3% black, and 2% Hispanic.
This is House Bill 1443. It makes changes to the Social Equity and Cannabis Task Force.
A new law aims to make those numbers more representative of the state's population. Minorities interested in getting into the pot business will have the first chance at new licenses. They qualify for grant funding from taxes generated by pot sales. They'll be able to get help from industry experts, and licenses will be offered to a group once prohibited from applying. Those convicted of pot-related crimes originally did not qualify for licenses, but under the new law, they not only can apply, they will get priority treatment in getting licenses. Those convictions will be an advantage.
So practicing equity in cannabis, in the cannabis industry, is extremely important for inclusion in the state of Washington.
Pierce County Democratic Representative Melanie Morgan sponsored the bill. She co-chaired the state's Equity in Cannabis Task Force with Paula Sardinas.
This bill not only takes into consideration the unfair, very predatory and discriminatory war on drugs that was predicated on the African American community, but it takes into consideration that we often don't have the tools and the resources in our communities to be competitive.
Now, obviously, this is a tricky topic, and there's a lot that I want to get into. There are tons of states with social equity programs and also lawmakers that are calling for diversity in the cannabis community. Now, there's something that you guys need to understand straight off the bat. The process for getting these licenses in a lot of states is not necessarily an easy one. And also, in a lot of situations, it is a pay-to-play game. And I think that that's my biggest problem with it, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But basically, if you are not a wealthy person or have tons of rich investors backing you, you're probably not going to get a license.
Illinois' pot business is booming. The original intent of legalization was to spread the wealth, specifically to minorities who have been disproportionately affected by the war on drugs.
The spirit of this law is built to repair those harms and to create true equity within that demographic.
But this group, called the Social Equity Empowerment Network, known as SEEN, says the process to award 75 new licenses to operate dispensaries has not been equitable.
You just want the playing field to be fair. That's all we wanted. And based on how the outcome was, even part of the process, it was not in fact fair.
Indrani Payton is part of a group that applied but didn't make the cut. More than 700 groups submitted 4,000 applications. The state said 21 of these groups will advance to the next stage, a lottery to award 75 licenses.
The facts show that of the 21 applicants, only 13 are majority owned and controlled by the people of color. How is this maximizing social equity with these numbers?
Felicia Royster says most of the winners are tied to big companies. Two have links to restaurateur Phil Stefani and former Chicago Police Superintendent Terry Hillard. Under social equity rules, extra points are given for applicants who are majority owned by a person living in an area affected by the drug war, someone with a marijuana-related arrest, or a company can employ 10 people who meet that criteria.
All that chalks up to me as an employer. And to me, that does not balance the scales of social justice.
And some denied applicants are not just speaking out, they're taking it one step further by filing federal lawsuits against the Pritzker administration. Denied applicants want to delay the lottery until they get more transparency. In a statement released today, the governor defends the law and reminds people that ensuring equity in the cannabis industry is a marathon, not a sprint.
Now, the entire thing is pretty interesting, guys, and let me know what you guys think about that. Equity versus equality. Equity basically gives everyone what they need to succeed, and the goal is to achieve a fair outcome based on individual circumstances. Meanwhile, equality gives everyone the same thing, and the goal is to treat everyone the exact same, treat everyone identically. And personally, I believe in equality. Everyone should be treated the exact same. There should be no special preference on someone based on their skin color, who their group of friends are, or what their last name is. And I think that that's the biggest problem, finding that balance between equity and equality. Now, like I said, the process when it comes to actually giving out these licenses, as you guys would have heard in that last clip, is usually pretty convoluted, and quite often it's a lottery. Now, even in places like Colorado, they use lotteries to give out these licenses. So have a look at this clip from not too long ago.
Junction is now holding a lottery to decide who will get one of a handful of licenses to open a cannabis business. The city will begin the randomized selection of cannabis business licenses with the first lottery drawing on March 2nd. For retail sites within the Horizon Drive Business District, 2 out of the 10 available business licenses will be issued at the lottery, and the applicants must have paid all fees and begin operations within 1 year of being selected.
So in a situation like that, a completely random lottery, I think that that's fair. There's no special or priority treatment given, no one is being skipped and placed at the front of the line, and I think that that's fair, and it reminds me of super hype sneaker releases where thousands of people are trying to get a limited amount of sneakers, and in those situations they literally host a raffle, so it's all about the luck of the draw. But that lottery process in itself has some minority applicants feeling really disappointed in the social, and obviously when you have a limited amount of licenses, not everyone can be a winner and get a license, and the lottery process actually has some minority applicants feeling disappointed and upset. Have a look.
Since legalizing marijuana in Illinois, the state has raked in millions in revenue. But as Illinois moves forward with handing out its first round of new licenses, many aren't convinced there's social equity in this pot game. Let's get to CBS 2's Jermont Terry live at the Thompson Center tonight. Jermont.
Erica, there were so many who had high hopes of getting in on this pot business. Hearing now who qualifies for the lottery to get a dispensary license, well, it's leaving some minority applicants a little deflated.
It leaves a bitter taste in your mouth.
Danny Joe Sorge is disappointed. The owner of this Southside barbershop waited months to see if he would be fortunate enough to get a dispensary license.
We had high hopes.
Sorge went through a rigorous application process. An LA-based organization provided the financial backing for him and 29 other social equity applicants to get in on the pot game.
0 applications that we submitted qualified for the lottery that's taking place now.
700 applications were submitted, and now 75 will have their names in the licensed lottery. Legalizing cannabis in Illinois included making sure social equity owners were included.
The intent of the law perhaps was followed, but the spirit of the law and the bill to provide social equity applicants a leg up on the application process seems to have backfired, if you will.
Democrat State Rep Sonia Harper from Chicago raising questions too, saying, I, along with members of the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus, are asking the governor's office to slow down this licensing process right now so that we may examine it clearly and make changes where needed in order to be truly equitable before continuing the issuance of any more licenses.
You see the same names.
So let me break this down for you guys, in particular what's happening over in Illinois. Over in Illinois, there's the Adult Use Cannabis Social Equity Program. And under that program, they connect and prioritize people who have been historically impacted by arrests, and they try to get them to participate in the legal cannabis industry. And according to this, at least 18 states have social equity programs as of late 2024 and mid-2025. States with active programs include Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Virginia. So the social equity programs are plentiful, but let's have a look at Arizona and see what they are doing down there.
26 so-called social equity licenses were awarded through a random drawing. Some say that is not enough, and while this program has good intentions, it may not achieve the goal of helping minority entrepreneurs and communities cash in.
Team 12's Josh Sanders talked with one of the more than 1,300 applicants prior to the drawing, who says receiving one of these licenses would bring a generational change to her family.
To select 26 application numbers.
It was the lottery more than 1,300 applicants have been waiting for, a chance to get into the booming Arizona marijuana business. 26 people, their lives forever changed by receiving one of the state's adult use of marijuana licenses, each potentially worth up to $15 million. 26 licenses admitting people into the industry regardless of socioeconomic status.
It would create generational wealth for me and my family. It would give me more opportunities to create other business ventures.
Ari Munoz is one of those hoping to claim a golden ticket. She's been in the industry for nearly 6 years. The lottery, her opportunity to take a life-changing step.
So obviously there are a lot of people trying to get these licenses, no matter what state you're in. There are thousands of applicants and usually under 100 licenses. So there's always going to be people left out and people feeling aggrieved. But what we're seeing is that even lawmakers in states like Baltimore are pushing for racial diversity among marijuana licenses.
Lawmakers are wrangling over the number of medical marijuana licenses to increase in order to achieve racial diversity. The law currently allows for 15 licenses. The Legislative Black Caucus wants to increase the licenses by 5.
We absolutely insist that 5 of these licenses go to minorities, African Americans and other minorities, in terms of ownership.
The Senate wants to expand by 7 licenses to include the 2 growers who almost made the first cut. They got denied to satisfy a geographic diversity component of the law.
On the Senate side, we feel that there's a sense of fairness that those 2 growers should be brought back in.
The Senate bill requires all licensees to reapply, but those given preliminary approval don't have to submit another filing fee. The Senate proposal also shrinks the number of licenses if any of the companies fail the next phase of the licensing process. Both the House and Senate versions of the bill rely on the outcome of a disparity study. This will take 30 to 40 days.
When we have the disparity study results, then you can use race-specific language. If we don't get what we expect to get out of that, then we can fall back to the race-neutral language, which has been already recommended by the AG as a good fallback position.
The Senate committee hearing the proposals abruptly postponed the discussion and vote on which direction to go.
So like I said, this is a problem across multiple states, and here's my view on this. When it comes to DEI and cannabis, those who were previously criminalized should not be prohibited from obtaining a license. But it's my view that they should not be placed at the front of the line just because they had a previous past conviction. And I don't think that they should be given priority when they broke the law when the law was what it is, even though now the laws have changed. Because there are tons of people who are trying to follow the law and did not get caught, and they are now going to be negatively advantaged simply because they did not have a conviction. Now here's my biggest problem with the cannabis industry, guys, especially when it comes to these licenses. It's such a pay-to-play game that if you do not have rich, wealthy investors or friends with deep pockets, you're probably not getting a license. And having the industry in a situation where only the wealthy can play, it's probably going to lead to monopolization. And it's my view that a free market with open and fair competition promotes a healthy industry. And my view on DEI in cannabis is the same as DEI in everything else. No one should be given preferential treatment because of their skin color or their last name, or their race or religion. Merit-based hiring is absolutely key. And that's coming from me, a Christian person of color who grew up in the Caribbean and smokes the good herb. And personally, I do think that it's because of that pay-to-play nature of the industry that a lot of folks are just feeling so aggrieved and left out.
And there's no denying that the cannabis industry needs more diversity in ownership of medical marijuana dispensaries. In 2017, 81% of marijuana business owners throughout the U.S. were white. And according to the Columbus Dispatch, only 9 out of the 57 dispensaries are under majority ownership from people of color and women. So on the latest episode of my Voices for Change podcast, I speak to some of the key people breaking down barriers in Ohio about getting their fair share of the pot pie. Ariane Kirkpatrick is the first female minority-led cannabis operator in the Buckeye State, who told me about how challenging it was for her to open her first store.
I had to prove who I was, my authenticity. I was just looked at as just a quota, just a number, just a minority female, but nobody questioned me or talked to me about my qualifications that I had as a very successful businesswoman for many years.
Now, I think that making everything about race and skin color is a little bit misleading. Example, this chart right here. Washington cannabis retail ownership is 82% white. And all these race hustlers and race baiters are making this out to be a massive problem. Now, personally, I'm not a race hustler or a race baiter. I actually never talk about race on this channel, and you guys would know that. But if you were to have a look at the ethnic makeup within America, according to the people who self-identify, you guys can see over 61% identifies as white, 18% 13.9% identifies as Hispanic or Latino, and 12.4% identifies as Black or African American. So obviously they'll have a lot more white-owned dispensaries. Now that being said, it would be nice to see a lot more diversity, but again, I don't think that that should be the sole focus on everyone's mind, and no one should be race baiting or race hustling. And that's where the equality comes in. If everyone has an equal playing field and everyone is given the same thing, then you have no complaints about anyone being treated unfairly or different to anyone else. So in some of these states like Illinois and cities like Chicago, where these social equity programs are running rampant, what do you guys think about them? Do you guys think that they're fair or they're unfair? And also, what do you guys think about the pay-to-play nature of the cannabis industry? If you don't have deep pockets or rich investors behind you, you're probably not going to get a license. And even if you do, the regulations, the red tape, all the financial requirements and money you have to spend to get that business set up and have the business stay compliant with local and state laws, you're looking at tons of money. So let me know what you guys think about all that. Drop it in the comments down below. I'm really interested to find out where you guys stand on this whole thing. And I'm pretty sure you guys missed this, but there's a new law which went into force banning all vapes. So if you haven't seen it, check that out because it's coming up right now.